over the years, some of the challenges is sometimes a lot of the advice that I would get would be from people who wanted me to be like they were. That would include, starting with my parents, but even beyond my parents, people that I actually thought were my, I sort of looked to be, I thought were mentors, which in retrospect really weren't. They wanted you to be like them. And so my challenge was like, how do I sort of take that advice, but really then think about what's important for me? And it took me a while to understand the difference. And I realized that the most important mentors for me over time were those people that asked me what was important to me, and for me to take the time to really figure out what I valued. And early on in my career, it was more just like a gut feeling. Later on, it was like, no, I really have to think about these are the various things that are important to me and that I value, and therefore my choices in my career and what I do in my life have to be grounded on those core values that I have. Just like you have a core mission and vision at a company or university, you should have the same for yourself. And then every time you think about things that you are going to do in your life, you should center it on that. And not a lot of people gave me advice in that way. And so I would just, sort of say the challenge is to try to find people that can help you figure those things out and see what's important to you, not just what they want you to do.
Well, fantastic advice. Other thoughts?
For me, if I can,
please.
Listening to what you said, for me, I thought of something that I think, to follow your question about challenges as a woman, I never felt that it's an issue, but when I decided to move to the Middle East, I thought it was an issue. And my question was, is it an issue because I'm insecure and worried about it, or because it's an issue because it is a real issue? So when I try to think about it and stop worrying about it, I realized that it wasn't as much as it should be. Of course, in the Middle East, being a woman and starting a business, and especially in the finance world where everybody's man, can be an issue. But the truth is, if I want to be honest, very rarely I know I was faced by that. And some of the reason is because I had to force myself not to feel insecure about it and act like it's not an issue. And people perceived it that way. So when you try to, I don't know how to explain it. When you try to believe it yourself, people around you a lot of time believe it. And so this is, for me, was something I learned. And another thing I learned is, not that I didn't do it before, but I learned it more and more, is never to take no for an answer if you believe in what you want, what is right. Not to give up, be persistent, and until you accomplish what you believe in.
That's so great, Chris.
I want to echo that point because I think it echoes the point that I made, which is I ignore the fact that there might be issues associated with being a woman. Because in my early career, I was always the only woman, whether I was in school, in an engineering school, or one of the few CIOs in a technology company. Candidly, ignoring that fact benefited me tremendously because I would just rise above it, and I didn't see obstacles because I had enough security and self-confidence. And I think you're on a great point, Hoda.
Any other comments?
No, the only thing, healthcare is great in many ways because there are so many women involved in healthcare. So you do have a lot of, I think, role models and people who will act as mentors. And I do think having a mentor is very important. But I do notice, sometimes that women tend to care more about what other people think of them than the men do. And sometimes I think that's a challenge because you're so worried about making everyone happy or making sure that, you're liked, that does get in the way of doing what you think is right or needs to be done. And I it's terrible to generalize between genders, but I do see that more between women and men, where men will just, say something in a very forthright and sometimes, abrupt way in a meeting. And for women, they're much gentler about it, and that's often perceived as being less aggressive or less, direct.
That's helpful. Please.
I just can add to that. I completely agree. I think I think sometimes I found that I didn't ever feel sort of discriminated against from being a woman, but that I was getting in my own way sometimes. And along those lines, it took me a while to develop, what I saw a lot of people had was sort of like to be almost like Teflon. Like I used to take things really personally about how people felt, and I would eat at me, and I realized that I had to learn not to do that, and I had to be and to develop the strength and the resistance and resilience that doesn't come naturally with, I think, a lot of women, and that was an important skill that I had to develop in order to get to kind of where I ended up, getting in my career. I don't think I could have gotten there because I took things too personally.